Another aspect of difficult decisions, I mean, there are lots of circumstances where difficult decisions have to be triggered. You know, we might have a bad quarter or bad 2 quarters, and therefore we can't spend as much as we'd like on maybe machinery or marketing or salaries or stuff like that. And again, it's just important that we communicate that in a reasonably even way, and the reason why we have to take certain actions that we're going to take, and not to let people panic with that. Like every business has a bad quarter. Every business has a couple of bad quarters. It's important. I think you touched on it when you talked about we let go contractors at the end of the contract. But people can very easily and very quickly create a narrative that there's wholesale layoffs. And so I think it's very important that even with non-financial decisions, let's say around transport or the canteen or work from home or the shift hours that we're asked to work, and that people take the time to explain it again, the why. So we ask 4 people to work a US shift. That's because we know there's a huge amount of opportunity in the US. We have to work it for a few weeks to prove that we can get more records dealt, or we can get more appointments from the US to prove a point. So I'm not going to ask you to work for the next 3 weeks on a US shift. You know, there will be reasons, but it's very important to explain it and not just to say, no, the higher ups want us to work a US shift. It's such if manager, if you're doing that, if you're saying, oh, management have decided, or the higher ups have told us, like, that's just a really lazy, crude way of explaining a hard decision. And it leaves the employee quite frustrated because they don't know why. And it's really shortchanging the management team. You know, we put a lot of work into our decisions. And as management, we have to take tough decisions. Everybody knows that. But if it's not explained, it really does everyone a big disservice. So I think it's quite important that we take the time to understand why decisions are being made. There will be a reason. You might not like the reason as a manager. You might disagree with it, but you've got a duty to present it to the employees and to explain, and not just to be lazy about it, to be the good guy by saying, oh, it's the higher ups have decided. That's just a really lazy way of handling that. And it's slightly cowardly. It's a very strong word, but it's a slightly cowardly way of presenting a bad decision. So I think that's also something to keep in mind.
Just to add to that, Con, so if you as a manager have questions on the decision, or you want to understand that better, please go ahead, ask questions, understand the reasoning, understand the logic of why is this decision taken. So that then you can go and explain better. So if you've bought into it, then you're able to explain better to the people on why, the reason behind it. And we are always open to questions and to explaining to you why we are doing.
Because we might find some feedback that counteracts our logic, and if the frontline people say, well, the consequence of that decision is going to be A and B, which I don't think management has factored in, that can come back up then through the middle manager. And we might actually change the decision. Probably not, but we might. We definitely might, especially if it's something we haven't factored in. Now, we don't want to get into huge dialogues with every decision we take, but we definitely would welcome where the frontline staff say, but that's going to have XY impact. But you can only do that, you only get that benefit if the explanation happens. If it's crude and if it's simplistic, you don't get that
not
dialogue.
A diktat. Like
it's a diktat, and everybody loses. That's a good point.